daughter needed a heart operation, and the doctor said, I'm a better surgeon if I smoke a couple of joints before the operation.
Focuses him.
What would you think about that?
If it made him focus better, yeah, absolutely.
You would feel better if our doctor's operating on your daughter's heart high.
As long as it wasn't stoned and had his wits about him and was
You smoked your high.
not necessarily.
Come on, Stoney. You don't want to see your doctor taking a gummy before he goes in there and operates on you or your daughter.
I wouldn't. But I would hope if he's a successful surgeon, he would do whatever he does to make him a successful surgeon anyway. If that was part of his routine and was considered a great surgeon, I probably wouldn't care.
No chance. I want a doctor
Can we
operating
call
on
Cindy
me.
and see what she thinks about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She'd think I'm crazy. No, obviously.
Michael.
It's like everything else, though. You don't know how that affects people. That's the point.
Surgeon, the thought is that a surgeon shouldn't have to alter his state of mind to conduct a heart surgery.
Well, then he's probably not a good surgeon if he
I also
if he
think
needs
making
it.
these cross, comparisons are different.
Right. I totally agree. They are completely different.
Yeah, they are completely different.
Yes.
If you're, if you're going to work at a construction site or go somewhere else, it's different than if you're a surgeon, and it's different if you're a professional athlete who relies on your body to perform.
To me, the professional athlete's probably the lowest of the equation because if you're a construction person and you're working on a building, if you screw up basically based on your feelings of somebody being a little impaired, so to speak, at work, he could, make some kind of error and a whole building could collapse and thousands of people could die.
Oh, okay. So if it's just one person that their career is affected, then it's different.
No, but you were making it seem like it's only a construction guy. This is an athlete. No,
there's a lot of different construction guys.
I know.
And gals.
Exactly. So the point, things happen to different people and they react in different ways. I'm not suggesting. All right, listen, here we go. The Tigers tonight, everybody go have a gummy before facing Martin Perez. You're going to play. No, I'm not saying that at all. But if some player believes in his mind, and especially in sports and in baseball, where your mind is very important, if you believe and it gives you confidence that you can perform at a higher level.
Your belief could be wrong, too.
It could be. Well, obviously, you would think that the reason you're doing it is because maybe over time you proved that it helped you.
Okay, but there also are coincidences where, you go get high, then all of a sudden you go and you have a great game, and it just happens to be a coincidence because you played against a bad defense or you had a good scheme.
You're not doing this just by one game. You're doing this by your career. I'm saying also, I'm going to slump. I'm going to do a bong hit before playing the game today, and I play better. Oh, maybe it was that. No, it's throughout your whole career you figure stuff out, I would assume. 248-539-9797.
There's that assumption.
248-539-9797, the Stoney and Jansen program. Carson Anderson coming up at 10. And I guarantee you that Doug and Gator are going to be sober when they enter the studio.
Yeah. No bong hits for them, eh?
No, not for us either.
No.
But, if other people think they can perform better, I'd say it's okay. If they can't, then they shouldn't, And believe me, I don't think anybody should be drunk or completely stoned. But, you get a little, shot of whiskey, whatever, gets you going, that's fine. You're not hurting anybody, I don't think.
Well, it can.
Yeah, and but you can get, as you always say, you can always get injured at any time as well. So
sure,
who knows? Let's go to Ryan in West Bloomfield. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
So, as far as performance enhancing, I mean, you see all these kids with ADHD taking Adderall, which, and to get their ACT, SAT scores up on that. I mean, so you can kind of flip it that way as well, right? I mean, so now that person's more focused, more determined. How would you compare that to a guy that has a shot or a puff, before they take the mound?
Well, Adderall actually scares the hell out of me because I've seen kids become addicted to it. But I think I think it's similar, especially if you're talking about kids with ADHD. That's a prescription drug, right?
Well, you can also say the same thing about pretty much pot if it's legalized.
Yeah,
now.
I think it's okay.
So you think it's okay to have a couple puffs before you take the mound or do your job, but maybe not having a shot?
I think it's okay to have a shot as long as it doesn't impair your mind, impair your brain.
Judgment?
Yeah, if it doesn't impair it, right. I mean, if it does, then you shouldn't be doing it. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. It all depends on the individual, as you've stressed on a lot of different topics. Steven in Ann Arbor, you're a 97 won the ticket.
Hi, guys. Great show. I think people have been doing drugs for a long time in the league, and whether they're legal or not, and they're all performance enhancing, whether it's steroids or it's a fistful of ibuprofen. I'd ask John how many guys he played along with that took a ton of ibuprofen before and after games. And that's all performance enhancing. That kind of masks problems that could pop up later and cause somebody an injury. So
does ibuprofen alter your mind?
I would say this: it sets your mind at ease. I think when you know that you've taken that party, as you say, that pregame ritual, whatever it is that you do, whatever drugs that you're taking pregame, you know that when you take those, okay, my knees are going to be good for the next 2 hours, and then I'll pump another fistful after the game's over. But some of that's a mental relax, and I think that's maybe what a shot of whiskey or a puff on a joint might give these people as much as anything. Is just kind of allow them to relax a little bit and play the game instead of think the game.
Right.
I think that's what we're talking about.
John, if you told me, thanks for the call. If you told me
ibuprofen's not going to cover anything real significant.
If you told me like Clinton Portis did like a fifth before a game, I'd be on your side completely. But you said a couple shots. I think it's okay.
Maybe he'd take a couple shots and go ahead and drive home. See how that goes for you.
Well,
make him a better driver.
Okay,
you're going to trust it driving home, but you're going to trust it on the field as well.
I don't know what the legal alcohol limit is for a couple of shots of. I don't know about you, but there are times I've taken 2 shots and I'm not legally drunk.
I do think it's different, and like we just said about the professions. You don't want your surgeon being high before they operate on your heart, on your daughter's heart,
right?
Stoney.
Yeah,
you said you were okay. To me, driving's different. I think, than playing football, except for I do side with you in the terms of, maybe a slippage of attention to detail here, false starting, illegal motion on a play. That kind of stuff is where your concern is at.
Yeah, or blowing a block because if you were sober, 100% sober, you might have made that block, or you don't, and now all of a sudden somebody, at worst, or at best, it's, a 2-yard loss.
A blown
At
assignment.
worst, it could be somebody's career.
A blown assignment could get your quarterback's knee,
Right.
not ACL torn,
And they're blown
and your
aside-
season.
And there's probably many straight players who've
Well, we've seen that. We think unless they're all high.
have missed have missed assignments as well. Ray, you're on 97 on the ticket.
Yeah, so back to that heart surgeon part. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I used to drive to a prominent hospital in southeastern Michigan. I won't say the name, won't say the doctor's name, but he was a prominent heart surgeon. And when he was really stressed out, I would drive down to the hospital and we'd smoke a joint in the parking lot before surgery. And he was one of the best in the area.
So you're his dealer.
Relaxed them, huh?
It relaxed him, and that's exactly what he would say. I need to be totally relaxed to go in and do these major heart surgeries.
Let me ask you a
And
question,
so he
Ray.
would smoke a
Ray,
joint.
did you charge a high? Do you charge a high-profile heart surgeon more for the weed that you deliver than you would a normal, like somebody else?
Not at all. It was a freebie.
Oh, okay.
He's saving lives.
Way to go, Ray!
You're doing
Ray,
your civic
Ray,
duty.
the
delivering drugs.
dealer, the doctor dealer, the dealer, the doc. We'll just call you the doc. Oh my Lord!
Everybody can rationalize it however you want.
Right, James, you're on 97 on the ticket.
Yes, sir. You guys have missed an important thing here. The one thing a lot of people play better, not being high or drunk, is that they don't want to play through detox. It's a lot better to play through being high or drunk than playing through detox. A lot of people are addicted to alcohol or the drugs. So I choose to do a little bit before the game so they can even them out and be all right. But if they stop doing that for like a month or two, play sober regularly, they'll probably do better.
Okay.
There's bigger issues at play at that point.
Yes, many bigger issues.
I was going to make a joke, and then I bit my tongue, and I'm glad I did.
Yes, Jerry in Westland, you're on 97 on the ticket.
Hey, Stoney. Hey, John.
Hey, Jerry.
Good morning.
Listen, I was an iron worker, a high steel worker for 25 years. Guys who walk on the steel beams like 300, 400, 500 foot in the air. And there was, I'd say, anybody who was a connector, the guys that actually physically connected the beams together as they're coming through the air, we were all drinking and getting high. I mean,
what were you building?
Like Woodward One downtown. Okay, that was the last skyscraper built in Detroit. I was on the Renaissance Center when we built that. Because,
all right.
Have you ever been, listen, have you ever been 500 foot in the air, walking on something not as wide as the bottom of your foot? It will freak you the hell out.
Okay.
A beer or two will relax you like you can do that job and not think about it. That's all it does. It's not getting you high. It's like your mind converts it to, okay, now I'm relaxed. I can do this.
Jerry, because
Jerry, no building is built.
Jerry, this completely blows me away because, first of all, I'm somebody who, if I was sober, let alone high, there's no way I'm alive. Trying to be on like a beam, 500. I'm not afraid of heights, but still, I got to side on John for this one. How does, I don't know, maybe I'm being an idiot by saying it's different.
Because if you have a beer or two, it's just like after you've had a stressful day, say something happened in your life, and you get to the house and you get in the lazy boy chair, you have a beer or two, and it relaxes you.
Yeah.
It's the same premise when you're working a super stressful job, only you're up there and all of a sudden you're not so freaked out, and your mind and your body gets relaxed.
You're connecting steel beams that hold people up.
You're not on a lazy boy. If you slip, you're a dead boy.
But look, well, you don't understand how construction works. We're not putting the whole building together. You might put the top two bolts in the beam, put nut on it, and you go to the next one. There's a crew that comes behind you to follow up to do everything. Another crew behind them to put torque on it, tension. It's not all one process.
I look.
Hopefully they're not high too.
I get it. To me, anything to make you do better at your job is
anything.
Well, within reason.
Well, sure. By that logic, let's go ahead and make steroids legal.
No,
it helps you do better at your job.
Well, they are in some aspect. They're prescription, but they're legal.
Come on, it doesn't help you hit a ball better.
TJ in Detroit, you're a 97 on the ticket.
Further.
Just a little,
hey,
further.
Tony, Jensen, how you guys doing, man?
Good.
I love the
Good.
show.
Thank you.
So I mean, just to touch on that point, I went through law school, and taking those tests, I had a lot of ADHD and anxiety issues, And I mean, I fully credit being able to get through the bar, simply off the fact of before some of those tests I had to take, I had to just, have a quick shot or a puff or two. And it really ended up being the difference, I think, for calming myself down and keeping my nerves at ease when I was taking these massive, massive tests. So I do understand the point of certain people need to be able to focus, and those elements don't affect them the same way as other people with the chemicals in their brain. So I like that you guys were touching on this.
Well, thank you. We always like to educate, even if we disagree.
Yes. You're also talking about something there that's very individual.
Right.
In golfers, individual things I think are completely different than team sports, because I'm relying on my teammates to be at tip-top performance.
Correct. But the point is, if that player believes in his mind that he needs it, and maybe he does physically, whatever, mentally needs something for him to be at the top of his performance, that's why he does it.
But the belief could be wrong.
But we don't know.
Exactly right.
So, but why is it okay for somebody to do it an individual that we don't know?
Because my livelihood doesn't depend on that.
Okay, but his belief is.
The caddies does.
But
you hitch your wagon. You hitch your wagon to that train. That's your problem.
John Daly's caddy.
But his.
Exactly.
But don't you want?
It's amazing it took this long to bring up John Daly.
Don't you think? Isn't it important that the person you're depending on believes in his mind that he's the best he can be?
Yeah, and I want them to go out there to perform to their optimum ability. Well, and I don't know that they could do it.
You don't know, but maybe he believes that's
he
that's
could be wrong.
Then you could be wrong. You could be right. You could be everything. I mean, that's what I think. The athlete does it because he probably has failed in the past, and maybe he's looking for something to improve his ability to make your job safer, John. All right, 97.1, The Ticket.
Hey, want to get away, relax, and just simply have a good time? Get to the D Las Vegas for everything you need. The D is taking all the necessary precautions to make sure your stay is safe and you can enjoy all the comforts of a high-end Las Vegas hotel without missing out on any of the high gaming energy and nightlife that you want. And if you want a great steak, the best one in Vegas, it's right there at Andiamo Steakhouse. That's where you're going to find Stoney and I come the beginning of football season in September. We'll also going to frequent the American Coney Island, the D Grill, everything that the D has to offer. If you want something a bit more casual, and I cannot wait to get out there and visit the Bacon Nation. It's just one of everything on the menu, please. At the D Las Vegas, the staff can set you up with a round of golf, and you can party all night at the Long Bar. So get a group together. Get to the D Las Vegas. Book a room at thed.com. That's thed.com. Or if you're staying on the Strip, make sure you put the D Las Vegas in downtown Vegas on your agenda. The D Las Vegas, your home for Detroit sports in Vegas.
(248-539-9797). The Tigers take on the Texas Rangers this evening, right here on 97.1 The Ticket. And they won the series with the White Sox over the weekend. Yes, officially the Memorial Day weekend ended yesterday, so they lost to Texas yesterday. But they win on the weekend, and going into yesterday's game, they were, one game out of first place, one game under 500. And the one thing that I got out of the weekend was just whether I was actually in the pool, hanging out with friends, at dinner, all this stuff. People wanted to talk about the Tigers. Are they real? I know they're in a crappy division, which everybody believes. We all know that.
Yeah.
But because of that, the question is basically, should we get excited that they are in striking range now, this late in the season, than it's been in a long time, where you can actually think, oh, they got a chance to win the division, albeit a horrible division. And then nobody's saying that the Tigers are really good, okay? But I came away from the weekend thinking, this is cool as hell. Can you imagine if they were really good? People are talking Tigers.
They're starved for somebody to be good. That's
Yes.
why we're celebrating and enjoying a team that's at best so far this year one game under 500.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a surprise. Nobody thought that they were going to be one game under 500, 1 or 2 games back of first place in their division, come the end of May.
Right.
And yet here we sit. And just to put in perspective how bad this division is, the other 2 divisions in the American League, the East, the Minnesota Twins, who currently lead the AL Central, would be tied for last place in the AL East,
Right.
and they would be tied for 4th. The only team that would be in the West, the only team that would be worse than them would be the Oakland A's. Who
Right.
They're worse than everybody in the history of baseball.
Right. Oakland should be relegated.
Yes. So that's how bad this division is. But that's irrelevant.
Right.
Because that's currently where the Tigers reside.
And because of that, every game seems to matter a little more than you would think at this time of the season because of how bad the division is. Now, if you're, I don't know what the betting line on the division is, how it's changed, but I imagine Minnesota's still a huge favorite.
Well, Costa had this yesterday. Minnesota's the favorite. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were. Minnesota is the clear-cut favorite. It was the Cleveland Guardians were second. The White Sox were third. And the Tigers, this is the only one I do remember, were minus 1,400. And they came in 4th place in the division to win the division. And obviously Kansas City was like minus 20,000.
Right.
That's incredible, though. That tells you what they think of that this is not real.
Right.
I think they're like a Moneyball light team.
Mm-hmm.
They're trotting out a different lineup every night. They're basing it on trends, how players play against certain players, lefty, righty, which is nothing new. That walking more is a huge thing. I think that's why people are like, they have more base runners than they've had in years. And I think that's why people are kind of gravitating towards it a little bit.
Yeah. And
combined with everything else you said. I was down there Sunday. We had a blast. Now, we went to a great game. Just a random regular season game that you could go and it could have been, 1-0 and been boring or something like that. But, we saw a grand slam. Saw Riley Green make the best catch I've ever seen in person at a game. That was ridiculous. I know there's been better catches in baseball before, but that was crazy to see in person. The way how loud that place got for that play, the Baddoo grand slam, and then the Green when he got the triple. A lot of people, I thought he had a chance at inside the park home run when it got by the center fielder, and I'm glad they held him up because I think he would have been out. But there was people were waving their finger around me and go all the way.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of electricity because the lower bowl was very full.
Yes.
The upper bowl had its definite emptiness, but there's definitely an interest in, my boys are with me and they're like, should we get a Baddoo jersey after the grand slam? And I'm kind of like, he is more like he was a few years ago than he was last year.
Correct.
But then Green did what he did. And I was like, this is the kid. That's the biggest thing so far. Riley Green looks like he is going to be a good Major League Baseball player.
Mm-hmm. He's finally developing, and we wanted to see Riley Green do this. We thought it would happen faster. We hoped it would happen faster. We wanted to see Spencer Torkelson happen faster. Now, Spencer Torkelson had a better May than he did April, but it's still not on the level of a Riley Green, there's not the power there that we thought we were going to get with Spencer Torkelson, but he is performing better.
Riley Green's month was just incredible. I mean, his OPS is 1.0 something, which is amazing. He's hitting ridiculous this month. Now, obviously, things level off, but it's, I don't think he'll go to April levels.
No, and just because the calendar turns from May to June doesn't mean he has to stop.
Exactly.
I'm pretty confident right now in saying this. I think he at least is going to be a more athletic, better fielding version of Nick Castellanos. And maybe that's a low mark for what we thought about him. Remember, he's a 6th pick in the draft, okay? He wasn't number 1.
Right.
He wasn't this highly sought after, super prospect. He was respected, but there was a definite question on who people wanted the Tigers to get there when they drafted. And look, Nick Castellanos has turned out to be a pretty good ball player in Major League Baseball. And the reason I bring him up is because he's the last prospect the Tigers have really brought up. And before that, it was who? I can't even think of who it might be.
You're right.
So that's why I said that. I'm pretty confident in saying that I believe he's going to turn into a guy that can float around 300, probably hit 20 to 25 homers, and maybe more. I'm not trying to limit him, but look, some people thought they had nothing.
Yeah.
Let's give this kid credit.
I know. I mean,
he's a baller too, man. I love the way he competes.
Right. I'm looking at the 2019 draft. He was the 5th pick in the draft, and I'm looking at guys who were taken after him, and most of them I don't even recognize because they even haven't made the majors yet. Now, there's some Anthony Volpe who got called up at the Yankees to be their shortstop. And the kid who's actually here with the Texas Rangers, whose brother the Tigers drafted in the first round last year, Josh Jung, and his brother was Jace, I think is his brother's name. The Tigers drafted, I forget exactly. But yeah, he's been probably the best. Well, Bobby Witt Jr. Well, the number 1 pick in the draft was the catcher for the Orioles, who's great, Rushman.
They didn't have a chance to
get him. I know. I'm just looking at the draft. Yeah,
they looked like they did pretty well here.
They did. They absolutely did.
I mean, aren't you pretty
Hey, that Al Avila, he knew how to pick them.
Maybe that's like when Millen left Calvin with us.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up Castellanos. It's like you got Alex Lang for Nick Castellanos. It looks like a pretty good trade. So, Green looks like to be, the only possible superstar out of this bunch right now. If you even,
I don't know that I would go superstar.
So you go star. Okay, so let me ask you this question.
All-star.
All right.
You should say all-star.
Okay.
He's an all-star.
He seems like he's going to make an all-star game.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Who's the biggest all-star in town? Or you think will be in 2 or 3 years? We are kind of bereft. I mean, you could sit there and talk about, Sewell at a glamorous position, so to speak, and that's glamour.
I know. Yeah, or you could say Hutch.
Right, or St. Brown.
St. Brown, yeah.
I mean, Sider, he won the Rookie of the Year, but he's not a superstar, but he's a star, probably, right? But we really don't have too many. There's, the jury's still out on Cunningham.
We have a lot of potential guys, though.
Yes.
Yeah. And you would
patient.
think, yes, be patient. Yes, keep being patient. Trust the process, right, Stoney?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're hoping that if you take enough bites at the apple, and whether it's Cunningham, Ivy, Durant, whether it's Green, Torkelson, and down the list, Badu, Short, you're hoping that
Short?
I'm just talking about young players that they've brought up.
Right.
Carpenter. All right. Maybe somebody there hits it. And with the Lions, all right, Kirby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. Like, you're hoping somebody hits, and it could be Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, you don't know.
Right. That's.
But you have this young core around every team, Mo Sider, that you're just hoping that enough of these guys will play at all-star levels. You don't look at any of them and say,
right,
Hall of Famer,
right,
superstar.
Nobody from out of town is saying, oh, boy, we got to go see the Tigers tonight because Riley Green's in town. We got to go see the Pistons because I want to see Cade Cunningham. Nobody's saying that about anybody. You want to see the Lions because it's football, and people do like the Lions nationally as a team because they like the whole Dan Campbell thing.
Right.
I think the geeks of geeks in other cities may be starting to notice Riley Green.
Yeah, you're right. The geeks of geeks.
The card collectors, the Riley Green guys.
The fantasy baseball players.
Yeah.
They're the ones. All right, 248-539-9797. Speaking of all-stars, should the Lions try to get this gun? This gun? Oh. What the heck was I saying? I must have taken a gummy.
Freudian slip.
Yes, 97 won the ticket.
Hey, I want to tell you about auto accident injury attorney David Femininio. David has been helping victims of auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents in Michigan for over 25 years. And the best thing about David is that when you call David, you actually talk to David, and he's going to take the time to speak with you about your accident, your injuries, and how he can best help you through such a tough time. David handles all the legal technicalities so you can rest and recover. You can call David right now at 855-65-CRASH or go to his website, getdavidgetpaid.com. That's 855-65-CRASH, getdavidgetpaid.com.
248-539-9797. By the way, he just walked into the station, and I just want to say it's good to be Paul Serra right now.
What's that?
Because Paul is from South
Miami.
Florida.
Yeah.
And he's got his favorite hockey team and his favorite basketball team.
He's going to have a hell of a month of June.
Oh.
Imagine if it went 7 games, both of them.
Yes. So, Paul, one question for you. I don't know if he's listening at all, but he probably isn't. If they both if they both win, would there be one parade or 2 parades, you think?
I mean, I don't know how Miami will handle it. There should be 2, but they might just combine it into 1, depending on how it goes.
Right.
Not 1, not 2, not 3.
Yes.
Where would it be? Because the Heat have obviously a more
South Beach.
Yeah, but the Panthers are more of like a Broward County type of a team, which is where Fort Lauderdale's located, as opposed to.
I have no idea the
and,
geography down there. Nor do I care.
I really don't care.
Yes, you're right. You're right. All right, let's go on to something that we do care about.
Right down Woodward.
DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent, as we know.
D-Hop.
Yes. Should the Lions
kick the tires? Sign him?
Sign him. I mean, they should definitely kick the tires, and I think they should sign him if he wants to come here. It's up to him more than, well, obviously the Lions have to offer, but basically
at that point, if
the
they
ball
offer,
be in his court.
Yeah, I think they should. I think it would be, when you're looking at this year and what some of the holes in this team could be, I think there's 3 that I would like them to still address. Defensive tackle, backup quarterback, and wide receiver. And I don't say wide receiver is a whole. I just think you're an injury away from putting Jared Goff in a position that you don't want to put Jared Goff. He needs to have receivers to throw the ball to. He needs to have a good running game, needs to have an offensive line to protect him. You've built this offense to make Jared Goff, to give him every advantage possible. And at the wide receiver position, if Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down, especially if it happens in one of the first 6 games, that's not going to be good.
No.
And if you're not going to have J-Mo, which we know we're not going to have him for the first 6 games, we don't really know what we're going to have when he is available. I think DeAndre Hopkins solidifies this offense, and it would make it one of the top 3 or 4 most dangerous offenses in the NFL.
Absolutely. I think it is almost a no-brainer because you have the cap room as of now. Now, do you need to save cap room in case there is an injury to a particular player, specifically Jared Goff? Maybe. But you're right. The fact that they don't have Williams for the first 6 games means, with all due respect to Amon-Ra St. Brown, I know he's going to be running probably deeper routes this year a little bit.
He talked about wanting to, utilize that part of his game more.
He's still, as good as he is he a bona fide number 1 receiver the way we look at number 1 receivers?
Well, no, I don't know that he has. He just doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins' skill set.
Right.
And it's not just the deep ball, but it's being able to catch those 50, go up and get the 50-50 balls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what we want J-Mo to be able to do. It's to go deep and be able to be, good on the 50-50 balls.
Right. 248-539-9797. That is the telephone number. Do you want D-Hop here? And why should he sign here? Supposedly, he was given permission to negotiate, and teams were talking to the Arizona Cardinals before they just let him go about a trade. The Kansas City Chiefs and I believe the Buffalo Bills
were the only 2 that had any type of conversations about trading for DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the rest of the NFL, and I think both of those teams felt like what they were going to either have to give up or the contract that he was currently operating under
correct
was prohibitive for doing it, and that eventually the Arizona Cardinals would just release him, and then you don't have to give anything up, which is what ended up happening.
Right, and they're taking a huge contract hit, cap hit this year and this year only, though.
Well, yeah, and they're basically, because Kyler Murray is going to be out for either the majority of the year or all of the year.
Right.
They're chalking this one up as, let's take our hits now because it's going to suck anyway.
I know.
I'm very torn on this. Like, I'm lukewarm on signing him because I have said since the draft, before the draft, I wanted him to get a receiver. Like, I want him to take Jalen Hyatt instead of Hendon Hooker. To me, that would have helped this team more right now if you would have addressed the backup
right now.
QB,
Yes, absolutely.
And then you're not even having this conversation.
Correct.
See, that's. I mean, I would be a definite no with Williams not being suspended. The Williams suspension has created I think a need, a weakness here, especially if St. Brown got banged up early in the season. All of a sudden, hey, that great running offense that you're going to have, they're going to be stacking the box big time. I already think they're going to do that and try to double coverage St. Brown and say, all right, beat us.
They're
That's
also,
exactly what I think teams are going to do.
And that's where Ben Johnson, he showed last year when they knew the ball, they were going to try and get the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they were stacking the box, that he could scheme them open. So I'm comfortable that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get his touches, going to get his receptions.
Well, and so's Laporta and maybe James Mitchell.
The tight end by committee.
Yeah, sure.
You're relying on young players, though, early in the season. That's what I hate most about this suspension. It's like if Williams got hurt 6 games middle of the year, okay, Laporta's gotten the dumb false snap out of his head. These are the fears that I have early in the season is Gibbs not getting an assignment right or not getting the play right, running the wrong way or something, a goofy handoff exchange with Goff because Gibbs chose the wrong way. That's what young players do, right, John?
Yeah.
And that's why I think they have a veteran need here. I do it. I just question with him. He's been in 2 horrific situations.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins with the Texans, which was the worst toxic situation in the NFL. I mean, they blew up. They had the Watson thing. You had crazy upper management rumors with the team and Jack Eaton, all that stuff. Jack Easterby.
Yes.
J.J. Watt leave, and he was the face of them. And then goes to the Cardinals, and that ended up not being the best of situations either. And the whole Kyler Murray saga with the contract and stuff. I feel like he is going to definitely seek out a true contender.
Correct. Now, does he view the Lions as a true contender? Yeah. Well, they are the favorite to win a division, and if they win the division, that means you get a home playoff game. And if you get a home playoff game, I think it's safe to say you are somewhat of a contender, right?
Well, and it's a kind of a mixture of things. I'm sure at this point in his career, he wants to go to a contender. He wants to go to a stable situation. But he also wants to continue to be paid. And there are not a lot of contenders out there with as much cap room as the Lions have. Now it does become, how much does DeAndre Hopkins care about winning a championship? Does he simply want to go to, and I mean, I know that the Lions play Kansas City week 1, and
100 days from today.
Right. But Kansas City is the leader in the clubhouse going into the season to be Super Bowl champs.
Yes.
Does he simply want to go there and he's willing to take whatever they can offer because he wants the chance to play with Patrick Mahomes and go there and win a championship? Or does he want a chance to do it at a team that is on the rise? Maybe it's a 1 or 2 year deal with the Detroit Lions, and they could pay him more.
Yep.
I think there's a wild card team. I could see the Eagles coming out of nowhere in this.
Well, let's see. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Goddard as your tight end. Wow, he'd be a pretty good third wide receiver. I mean,
it's an
Quez Watkins
all-in
is
move
okay.
for a team like the
They're
Eagles.
not paying Smith yet.
I know.
It's an all-in move for the team like the Eagles. It's an all-in move for a team like the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
Like, hey, this is all chips are in. We got to win it this year.
But where is he going to have more success when you look at playing conditions? In Buffalo where it's cold? Or
Right.
in Detroit?
Yep.
where
I
it's-
think you should go to Kansas City. I mean, I know
Yes.
that's a nightmare for us in the opening game. Of
Yeah,
course.
but anybody should go there to play with Mahomes. Brendan in South Lyon, you're a 97 the ticket.
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Good morning.
I don't agree with DeAndre Hopkins coming in here
Why?
to Detroit.
Why?
When we look at our salary cap, we got $24 million, right? We're going to have to pay a lot of our young guys coming up in these next couple of years. If we pay him to a 2, 3, 4 year deal coming up, how does that, like, how are we supposed to fit in with all of our young guys and all of our signings?
We're not looking at a 3-4 year deal. We're looking at a 2 year deal here.
Yeah, and I think most teams, when they're looking at him, they could structure however they want. They
Right.
could say 3, 4, 5 years, but functionally it has to be maximum a 2 year deal.
Right. But I'm saying, like, look at our young guys. We have Goff still, right? We have to pay him if we want to keep him, even though we just drafted Hendon Hooker.
No, 2 years.
He's under contract for 2 years.
Goff's they're all under contract. Even the young guys that you're talking
Penei
about.
Sewell's under contract for 2 years.
Yes.
The biggest one coming up next year that you're going to have to address is Jonah Jackson first, and then Amon-Ra.
Right.
Great.
But
I agree that, like, in my opinion, I like Amon-Ra better than DeAndre Hopkins. He's young and he's got more talent.
Well, eventually down the road, yeah, he's part of your future. But for a 2-year deal, it's not.
You can have more than one great receiver.
Right. You can have it all.
You can find ways to move money around and create cap room.
Right.
And I want to sacrifice cap room in 4 years for DeAndre Hopkins? No. But I'm not. We're not asking that. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find a team at 31 that's going to do that.
Right. He is 31 years old. That's why no deal that you're cap strapped for more than 2 years makes any type of sense.
Right.
If you sign him to a multi-year deal that's more than 2 years, it's structured where you're not killed cap-wise if you have to cut him. Our telephone number, 248-539-9797. 248-539-9797. As the folks who are watching on Twitch and YouTube already know, we are live the last hour of our show every day on YouTube and on Twitch.
Yep.
So
rocking and rolling along.
Feel free to look at us and say, boy, you guys have faces for radio.
It will just confirm what everybody thinks. There's
Oh.
guys that are in front of the camera. We see them every night on the news, and there are guys that they don't start even when other shows are on for 4 hours.
Yes.
There's a reason that there's only 1 hour of ours.
Exactly.
Not much to look at.
No, not at all.
You know what got me to thinking there at the whole, because I'm bald, so that pretty much prevents me from being on TV, right? There's not a lot of bald guys.
Well,
I mean,
just
there's
take some de-shiner.
Wait, what'd you call it? The one? Sheen. Who called it the sheen?
The sheen? I don't know. I mean,
Remember one of you guys called it, instead of the shine, you called it the sheen a couple of weeks ago.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was Heather. She's
Yeah.
not here.
It was
Yes,
Heather.
it was Heather.
Yeah. Okay.
Put some sheen on it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, though, seriously, there are bald people on TV now,
Yes.
but there still aren't that many when
No.
you really think about it.
Correct. And I got to say something. It may come out the wrong way, but what the hell? Black guys look better with bald heads than white guys.
Thanks, Tony.
Sorry. That's just the
For
way
those of you who thought I was black, I'm not.
that's the way I feel. That's the way these ridiculous eyes look. But speaking of eyes, you always talk about allergies. It's gotten so bad. Yesterday, but granted, I was in the sun. Same thing happened to my wife. My eyes have been burning like crazy.
Really? What are you looking at?
Nothing really. I mean, just the
floor.
Yeah. That's
I don't
something that I have a couple of daughters that it does affect them, and it has
Yeah.
been a brutal spring for them. Fortunately, I don't have that issue.
Good for you.
Watery eyes or burning eyes.
Mine have burned more this spring,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
There's something with the,
Right.
I think the lack of rain, which we need rain soon because this is supposed to be a rainy time of year.
Yeah, we're not getting it for a week.
I know, which is nice that it's nice, but this is
The
going to,
rainy time is April. I mean,
and May.
April showers. We're almost out of
Even
May,
early
though.
June.
Yeah.
The greens are fast.
We may need, though, we're not getting this once it comes like July and August, early
Sure,
August.
I get that. Yeah.
I do want to mention that sometime this evening, probably it'll be dropped, the Restore the Floor podcast, myself and Evan Jenkins do about the Pistons and the NBA. We have a special guest. We're going to tape it later today with Larry Brown. And Larry Brown, obviously great coach here, 2 trips to the finals, 1 championship. Weird way the way it ended. The last time the Denver Nuggets played for any type of championship was the last year of the ABA. He was their head coach. Just Google like images of Larry Brown coaching the ABA. He wore suspenders, like overalls, really. His outfits were crazy. So we'll discuss a lot of stuff with him, including, I mean, when he was an assistant coach last couple of years at Memphis, he worked with James Wiseman, Jalen Duren, and Amani Bates. He's also the subject, well, he's the minor part, but TNT tomorrow night, I believe, has a documentary on, it's called Everything But the Chip, on the 2001 Sixers, and it obviously focuses heavily on the Iverson-Larry Brown relationship.
Yeah.
So, and the way he had a disdain when he coached here for like 3-pointers, I can imagine what he thinks of today's NBA game.
Well, and the beautiful thing about having him on the podcast is there's no breaks, there's no hard outs, there's no time limit, so you guys can cover whatever you want to cover and say whatever you want to say.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm looking forward to listening to that one.
Yes, and hopefully there'll be some, I don't know if there will be anything groundbreaking that we'll pull and put on our broadcast as well. Hopefully, speaking of the Pistons, maybe they'll have a coach this week.
It's going to have to happen sooner or later, you would think.
You would think it's going to be Kevin Ollie because he said goodbye to all these people on Instagram from his Overtime Elite thing, but which he actually quit or, retired from earlier this year anyway. But
yeah.
It'll be interesting. Maybe they're going to wait to see what Miami does and actually make a nice effort for Chris Quinn, which I don't know why they hadn't already, or maybe his interview was bad. I have no idea. I'm just, spitballing that, but he certainly has earned a chance to be a head coach in the National Basketball Association.
Yes, developed a lot of guys. That organization has, whether it's Pat Riley, whether it's Spoelstra, whether it's the assistant coaches, there's a recipe down there that if you can transplant that recipe, and I'm not saying the New England way, we know that hasn't traveled well. I'm not going to say it's the Miami Heat way, but you want to get guys that have had success at developing players, success at implementing role players.
Yes. And if you are a fan of Boston hating, you love the fact that Boston is the first metro area to lose a Game 7 at home to the same metro area in both the NHL and NBA playoffs in the same year.
Yeah.
So take that, Leprechaun. All right, it's Tuesday, so it's time for Gator to attempt a 2 Grand Slam.
Man.
What?
Take that, Leprechaun. I mean, that's...
Well,
it's aggressive. Stoney's been aggressive all day.
It has been. I mean, that's like a Notre Dame thing.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it stems from, like he's been impaled. We learned that he was impaled by a bee. Have you ever been impaled by a bee?
I used the wrong. I used the wrong.
How about a
case of
mosquito?
Was
You've
the
been
bee
impaled?
just sitting there, wasn't doing anything? And
Yeah,
then
and
he launched his body at it?
I stepped
Then he was
on it.
impaled.
I stepped on it.
Yeah, he stepped on it. So I wouldn't say launch.
The stinger was impaled in my heel. Anyway, enough of that crap.
That's no good.
It's time for the 2 Grand Slam. Gator, I think you'll do pretty well. Our contestant got 5 correct. Here we go. Who did the Detroit Tigers play today?
Texas.
This Detroit Tiger hit a Grand Slam this past Sunday.
Akil Baddoo.
Is St. Ignace in the Lower Peninsula or Upper Peninsula?
Upper Peninsula.
He plays Phil Knight in the movie Air.
Is it Ben Affleck?
Jimmy Garoppolo was drafted by this team.
The Patriots.
Former Red Wing Luke Glendening currently plays for this team.
Dallas Stars.
This techno music festival was held at Hart Plaza this past weekend.
Movement.
This former NFL running back recently admitted to smoking pot before games.
Le'Veon Bell.
What is 15 times 6?
Is it 90?
No. Who is the head?
Yeah. Okay.
Who is the head football coach for the Indiana Hoosiers?
Allen.
You got it. Hey! Pulling 90 out. 15 times 6.
Way to go. Tom Allen, let's clap for him.
I'll leave that for Doug. Doug's a big fan.
Maybe shed a tear.
Think he's a big fat phony?
Love these guys. Love these guys. Please stand next to me while the camera's on me.
Yeah. Was the camera on me?
Yeah. Oh, tears.
Make sure I let people know I'm coaching.
Yeah.
Who's worse at that, him or Franklin at Penn State?
Or PJ Fleck?
I don't mind PJ Fleck.
PJ Fleck, that's just an act.
He's a good coach.
I don't know. James Franklin or Tom Allen? James.
Is he though? But I mean, Franklin, you got those videos of him like pretending to hold his team back. Just stay back. I have to go first. I have to go out first.
Not a big fan of that. I have a disdain for James Franklin, but the one with Tom Allen has really grown over time, and I think it's that water drip where the only time they've had success is in the one season that we all say
Right,
everybody else gets a mulligan. Right. All right, in 2020. Well,
and they were flirting with a playoff bid.
Yeah, and
that's how bizarre that
and they
was.
got lucky. The Penn State game was a bad call. That was that game, right?
Yeah,
start the season off.
Yeah, they won 2 games since in the Big Ten.
Yes,
I think they've won 2 Big Ten games since that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That'll bring tears to your eyes, Tom Allen.
What do you guys got going today?
More Indiana football breakdown.
Ripping on leprechauns.
Yeah.
And,
Don't say it.
We got some Tiger stuff to get to. Obviously, that's been good. I had a flashback over the weekend. It wasn't good. So
LSD for Doug.
All right. Go pitch a perfect game like Doc Ellis. Carson Anderson next, 97.1 The Ticket.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Doug Karsch, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Many people back after a long holiday weekend, including me. Gator, you were in yesterday. Hope things went well.
Yeah, it was fine.
Good. Had a baseball team to talk about, and we still do, in spite of what happened yesterday. But hey, look, man. I mean, I feel like we're given bonus interest. Is that a way to put it? I didn't. They're hanging around. The loitering continues.
I think there's definitely interest. I think it's tough right now against the Texas Rangers because you're going against one of the best offenses in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Only Tampa Bay has scored more runs. And the Tigers are throwing at them the number 3, 4, and 5 starters in the rotation.
Right.
So it's not a recipe for success. I'd like to see obviously we all like them to win the series. It'd be fantastic if they can win the series, but I don't have high hopes. What I want to see is continuing to play fundamentally sound baseball and working at not straining runners on base.
Mm-hmm.
It is becoming an epidemic with how many guys, just multiple runners on base in an inning. It's frustrating as a fan. It's got to be mind-numbingly frustrating as a player and as a manager out there for the team not to be able to convert. But it's something that you go through. You want to be a good team. Good teams make that happen, and I hope they'll get there. I want to see different players emerge. McKinstry's done a nice job. Like to see that. Zach Short deserves playing time. Until he doesn't, but right now he does. And ride the streak.
It brings us to a topic that I think is really intriguing with this team. When you say you'd like to see players emerge, who are the guys that truly they aren't performing now, but we think can perform? They aren't getting the result now, but it's not unrealistic to think, well, that guy has the chance to do a lot more. And these are the types of players that can make a difference. Now, there might be some stuff that like the bullpen might be overperforming at this time. And I think A.J. Hinch has pushed the right buttons with some guys and played them in the right situations. But, at the end of the day, who would you put on the list as a player that's not performing that can give them more? And one of these things, a great example is we might have said the same thing. We might have, if we asked this question a month and a half ago, one of the names that would have come to the top of the list is Riley Green, and he is now performing. He has started to step up. He's
played very well.
Well, I can't remember what game it was earlier in the year when he came up with like runners on second and third, and the Tigers were down a run in the 9th inning, and we're like, okay, let's have a Riley Green moment. Sunday, we had Riley Green moments. Late in a game, in a tight game where he went back and pulled a home run back. That was in the 8th. And then in the 9th, he had the triple. And those were, I don't know, I feel like for me, it was like, okay, Riley Green, for lack of, I don't want to jinx it or anything because I know people believe in jinxes, but didn't it feel like he's kind of arriving? And we're watching him arrive as a really good young hitter and good young player in the American League.
I mean, he's had a phenomenal month of baseball, and he picked it up at the end of April. I love what I'm seeing from him because, I think he is emerging as that guy. He's I don't know how much higher that ceiling is.
Mm-hmm.
It might be really high. I don't know, but
350. Remember?
Well, right, yeah, you had him at 350.
Yeah.
But his OPS is over 800. If you can keep it over 800, that's fantastic if he can do that. And I know there's more power in him, more power to come. He just looks comfortable at the plate. He looks comfortable going the opposite way if he has to. He's got great speed on the base paths once he gets going. Like, he's fast as hell once he gets going. He's not necessarily a base stealing guy, though he's stolen 6 bases this year, but he's somebody that you want on the bases when somebody hits it in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
I want Riley Green on the pass because I feel like he's going to score almost every time. But you ask for guys that could give more, that we expect more of. Torkelson is one for sure. And, slowly but surely, he's having a better year this year than he did last year, but the OPS is still just 668. What he's done well lately is draw walks. He's done a much better job of getting on base that way, but we want him to hit doubles and home runs. Javier Baez, responded very well after the benching in Toronto. But since then, the average is up a little bit, but it's still only 230 on the season, and his OPS is below 600. He has more to give, you would think. Eric Haas, and they got players. I'm not sure who these players are. Are they everyday players, or are they just players on a bad team that can make the roster? And Haas is like Haas, Baddoo, Zach Short. Those are the guys I'm not really sure about. There's probably a couple more there on the team, but those are the three that stand out to me right now. That I want to believe that these guys have more to give and that they are what we're seeing from, but I'm not sure. Haas only has the 2 home runs on the season. He had a bunch of them last year. His OPS is down to 611. That's not great. Akil Baddoo has had a really nice few weeks here, so keep playing them. I mean, you play the guys while they're hot. Play them until they're not. I don't know what Akil Baddoo is. We got really excited a couple years ago when he got off to that amazing start and then cooled down. Last year wasn't much. What are they? Do they have other players that are like that? Nick Maton. What is Nick Maton? I don't know. He's not hitting a lick, but he's getting on base better than his average, a lot better than his average. But I'm not sure what the fascination is with him still here.
Well, you mentioned, 5, 6 guys there, maybe 7, and you didn't mention the guy that I put at the top of my list.
Like I said, I'm sure I left somebody out.
Yeah, the guy that can give them more and maybe, just maybe, take this Tiger. MJM, it's one of our favorite terms here at the show. MJM, take this Tiger team over the 500 mark and make a real run at the American League Central. I mean, we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, and, it was a decent weekend. They're 2 games under. Texas is good, and we don't think that the Tigers are competitive against the best teams in the American League. Can they be competitive against the best teams in the American League Central?
Well, but then you get to the question of, does that, because you're competing for the Central, but not competing for the American League, does that mean that you don't trade away assets?
You know what it means to me? It means that you can command a higher price. When you say to teams, why are we giving you Eduardo Rodriguez when we're in this thing? You need to make it worth our while. And I still think if you get a king's ransom, you take it. But you can legitimately command it, and teams understand that you're not just selling to sell. You're selling because the price is right. Because if you could stick around, you could drive the price up.
Well, this is what's going to be interesting to see how Scott Harris handles this, right?
That's one of the first big questions in his tenure.
What he did in the offseason wasn't flashy at all. But what he did in the offseason actually improved the team. What is he going to do when he's actually got a couple of bargaining chips to deal? You've got Rodriguez. You've got Alex Lang. Alex Lang is a huge bargaining chip the way he's pitched so far, and knock on wood, love for him to continue doing what he's doing, but it's unrealistic. A 1.21 ERA and a 0.9 WHIP.
Yep.
I mean, those are Mickey Mouse numbers, and our guy has them. It's fantastic. But what does Scott Harris do? I think the next 6 weeks are really telling where this team is, because you'll be playing first place teams like Texas, like Atlanta. You'll be playing a really good team like Arizona. You'll have a couple series against the Twins, and when all the dust settles. By the end of the month and you get into July 1st, when all the dust settles, if you are above 500 at that point, I might feel better about my chances, not just competing for the Central, but about competing.
Yeah, I don't think of them I'm ever going to feel good about them competing, but I think they can compete in this division. I mean, it's like every day. Every day that passes that we cross off the calendar, you're like, well, they're still there. They're still right in this thing. I still point to that 7 games in 10 days with the Twins coming up in a couple weeks. That's one of the ones. That's one of the times. 248-539-9797. All right, I'll give you the name of the player that I think can give them so much more and maybe help make a legitimate run at this Twins team and at this American League Central. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1, The Ticket. Lots today to digest from a long sports weekend. 248-539-9797. We're talking about this Tiger team continues their hang around near the top of the American League Central. 2 games under, 2 games back. Riley Green, huge moments on Sunday. Tigers got skunked yesterday in the first of 3 of this series with Texas. And look, they're really good, and Matthew Boyd is what he is. But we're kind of asking the question, is there a player on this roster or two that you say, okay, they can give more, and I'm expecting them to give more, and they're not getting results now, but I can see a future, in a not so distant future, this player can help. And I'm going to go, Gator, and you mentioned a whole bunch before the break. I'm going to go with today's starter, Alex Faedo. It's only 4 starts this year, and of his 4 starts, they've only won 1 game. But the secondary numbers are really, really good. In 21 2/3, he's given up 15 hits, and he has 1 walk. He's got 22 strikeouts in 21 2/3. His swing and miss rate is healthy. He's coming off a 10 strikeout performance against the White Sox. And, I mean, he has one major issue, and that is he's given up 6 home runs. He's given up 10 earned runs in total, 6 home runs.
It's amazing how many home runs he's given up.
And that's not a non-issue. It's an issue.
It's an issue, but what he's managed to do is limit the damage with the home run. The solo shots are solo shots. I mean, he's not giving up much else.
Yeah.
So that's what's been great about what he's done this year. I mean, the strikeout to walk ratio is insane, the 22-1. And that's crazy. And coming up, you mentioned that 10 strikeout performance that he had on, I think was it Saturday? Or no, it had to be later last week. Last Thursday when he had the 10 strikeouts. It was just great to watch what he was doing because he had such command of the strike zone. He's got great control. Control is throwing his strikes. Command is being able to work the strike zone however you want and dot the corners. And he was able to do that with limited damage. The damage was the home run that he gave up. But 3 hits in the game and no walks, you'll take that every outing if you're going to go 6 innings.
The timeline for every player, and he's had a share of injuries, but the timeline for every player can be different, and it's okay. But the reason I bring that up is because this is a former first-round pick, right? This isn't a guy that is kind of coming out of the blue, and you're like, oh, well, this isn't going to last. I just find it interesting. Watching Alex Faedo this year, to me, is encouraging. Now, there's a long way to go before I'm like, all right, he's definitely played, but this is just a player that I think might have more to give. I think, if things are going to work out this year, it's something like this has to happen. And so my instinct tells me that the Tigers aren't going to stay in this thing, but my instinct would have told me at the beginning of the year that we wouldn't be talking this way basically as we head into June. So Faedo is a guy that I hope here, Gator, can continue. If he keeps the ball in the ballpark and those secondary numbers stay what they are, and he keeps getting swings and misses, who knows? Who knows?
Well, he only pitched in the minors for a couple of seasons with the Tigers before getting his opportunity, and you mentioned the injuries he's had as well. It was like after the injury, he was competing to be with Detroit. It was no longer going to pitch in the minors. But in those 2 years in the minors, had an ERA of 4.02 the first year and 3.90 the second year. Nothing that's eye-popping with that, but 134 strikeouts and 115 innings that second year, that lets you know that he had some kind of command of the strike zone. And that's something to build on because that's Scott Harris baseball. That's what he preaches to the pitchers. Pound the strike zone. Get the first pitch. When you watch Lorenzen pitch, I'm amazed watching this guy pitch. He's just a strike machine. He's going to pound a strike. You're going to get a strike on the first pitch because that's what he's doing. And he was like 23 out of 25 batters the other day were first pitch strikes. That's incredible. And when you got pitchers that are just in that groove, it's fun to watch, and the game moves much quicker, and everybody's happier, it seems. And yeah, I didn't mention any pitchers on my list. I would just look at the offense, but I agree with you. Faedo's the guy you're going to continue to watch. He's not a spring chicken. He's 27 years old, but in terms of how much baseball he's actually pitched in the organization, it's not as much as you think.
He missed 2 full seasons. Yeah. He missed a season, the COVID year when he was still in the minors and there was no minor league baseball. Then he got hurt and didn't throw
all 2021.
Didn't throw a pitch between 2019 until 2022. And so he kind of has been a forgotten guy. And, if there was no pandemic and he stayed healthy, who knows where he'd be. But, look, that's a lot of guys. You can't say if he had stayed healthy. Right. But if you look at the career timeline, it's not impossible that Alex Faedo has something to give here. And I just find him to be one of the more intriguing Tigers. And today, against this lineup and this Texas team, could be very telling. Could be very telling because he has kept runners off base. And he's been all over the strike zone, hasn't walked guys, and it's just he hasn't kept the ball in the ballpark. And so, that's, like I said,
that can be a problem.
That's not a small thing. That's a pretty big thing. But still, it's also sort of the one thing that has been his issue. And it's a lot easier to correct one thing than it is to correct 10 things. And Texas has 70 home runs, which is amongst the top 10 teams in the majors. So
it's interesting because last year he pitched 53 2/3 innings with the Tigers, and he gave up 7 home runs in the 53 2/3 innings. He's already given up 6 home runs in 21 innings. Mm-hmm. But the difference is solo shots.
Yep.
And he's just not giving up many hits at all, and certainly not walking anybody. He's given up, I think it's 16 base runners in 21 2/3 innings this year. That's amazing. It's a great job. Great start. Keep building off it. And yeah, that's a guy. If he's more than just a guy you thought was going to give you some quality starts and until the rest of the rotation got healthy, he's done that and he's doing that. Can he be a guy who's actually a rotation guy? That's what he's got to strive for. And that's what you're hoping.
248-539-9797. Tiger fans, you got a candidate that can give this team more and help them stick around in the American League Central. In the meantime, we said this would be great if it happened. It would be funny if it happened, and then it happened. We'll get to that today at 10:34 here on Carson Anderson, 97.1. Doug Harsh, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket, open lines, 248-539-9797. Thanks for being with us here on a Tuesday. Feedback coming in here regarding the Tigers, and it's from the optimistic to the not-so-optimistic. From an unnamed texter, some games we have 3 guys in the order batting 170. I don't see anyone that's going to start hitting better. Torque is a 230 hitter. Badu, Scope, and Haas just are not good. Baez, a career 248 hitter. So an example of Javi Baez maybe being a 248 hitter, but getting better, was his strikeout rate. We had that stat last week that this was by far the best strikeout percentage of his career. It was just 18%. For his career, he was a 28% strikeout rate. The MLB average was 21%. The lowest he's ever had was 24% of his at-bats he struck out. Yep. It's down to 18%. So while Baez, there might be examples of him not hitting for average, and obviously there are, and he's at least having more productive outs or giving himself a chance by putting the ball in play. As far as Torque being a career 230 hitter, are we really, is that defined?
I don't buy that. I don't buy that by a long shot.
He's just over 1 year worth of career at bats.
Right. He's got 640 plate appearances or something. I mean, if that's I just don't buy it. I'm not defining him after completing that few at bats.
Yeah, he could be, but he's a 23-year-old who's got 551 at bats.
Yeah, I expect him to be much better than 230. I don't think he's a 300 hitter in baseball. I think he's a guy who's going to swing and miss a lot, but he's going to be a guy who also drives the ball into the gaps and has tons of extra base potential. He has to continue to show that, and I think he's done a nice job of being more patient at the plate. I mean, he's drawn a ton of walks in the last couple of weeks. That's good news for Spencer Torkelson. But, yeah, he's got more to give. I guess I would strongly disagree on the 230 part. That's all he is. I do agree that it's difficult to look at the middle of this lineup when you've got guys underperforming like Torkelson and Baez, and then Nick Maton is constantly out there. I'm still surprised Nick Maton is still part of this team at this point, that they haven't tried to get his confidence back and send him to the minors and bring somebody else up. Andy Ibanez is an interesting one because he was awful, then he was hot, and then he was awful. Mm-hmm. And, finally broke an 0-for-32 streak with a base hit, but he's still only hitting $167. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why? Well, the answer is because the analytics and sabermetrics will show you that they expect him to be so much better. He's just been unlucky. He puts the ball in play, he hits the ball hard, but he hasn't gotten any results out of it. Give it time, and those numbers will start to correct. I don't know how much time you give it. I mean, 1 for 38, I think, was the stretch that he was in.
Yeah.
But they're going to keep trying it, I guess, until, because he's defensively, he can play a number of different positions, and he made a phenomenal play yesterday at first.
Right.
Which is not his number one position, but he played really well yesterday. So you're going to keep trying it. And the reason to get itchy about it is because going into yesterday's game, they were a game out of first place. I'm itchy about it now because it feels like they've got a chance to compete. I want them to compete rather than just giving the young guys chances and giving them more and more rope. It's a tough place to be in, but it's still so early in the season that I get it.
More feedback. These guys were cast-offs for a reason. Only McKinstry is outperforming his career average. Yeah, I mean, right now, it seems like the majority of the overperformers might be pitching and specifically bullpen. So, yeah, I mean, McKinstry's been a nice find.
Oh, he's been great. Yep. I mean, 412 on base percentage. He's hitting 296. He's been great as a leadoff guy. I don't know if he can continue doing it, but keep playing him there and see what happens. I mean, he could be a real nice find, and he's got versatility where he can play him in the field.
Chase writes in, Tigers will probably get swept this series. You don't talk about hitting discipline at the plate much, but it is so important to swing for base hits and not just home runs, as they like to do. When the Tigers get just 8, 9, or 10, when the Tigers get just 8, 9, 10 or more hits, they usually win the game. Well, we do talk about swing. I mean, we talked about Baez last week and how he is showing far more discipline. In fact, we've talked about how they're walking more. The strikeout rate is down. We've discussed it quite a bit, and it's an approach. That's what's crazy about it. It's just simply changing the mindset when guys go to the plate has helped.
The tough part about this Texas series is who you're putting on the mound, because it's your 3, 4, and 5 starters in the rotation.
Dude, it's Faedo.
I'm curious. I want to see how
I
Alex pitches tonight. I mean, can he continue to do that? It'd be great, and limit the damage. That's awesome. But you're taking on a team that scores a ton of runs.
Yeah.
That's a scary lineup they have. I think they have the top 3 run scorers in the American League.
Look, this is just tonight. I'll say this because he very well could fail it. I'm not claiming that Faedo has arrived. Tonight's a big test for him. Tonight's a big test.
Big season.
Mayton is a career 240 hitter, so I guess he could give more, but geez, it's slim pickings. Guys who can give more, I'm going with Austin Meadows coming back and making contact like he did before he came to us.
It would be great if he could, but it feels like that's a long road to come back from. Haven't really heard a whole lot about him. The guy who is coming back, maybe by the end of the week, is Kerry Carpenter.
Which is the next text. Carpenter will be back this week, so Ibanez will be sent packing. 248-539-9797.
If you're going to send somebody packing, would it be Ibanez or would it be Nick Maton?
Probably Maton for me, but
it would be Maton for me. Ibanez has the versatility in the field, and apparently the numbers that show he should be better than what he is.
So what was it yesterday? They loaded the bases in the second and had 2 on in the third and got no runs out of it. I mean, that's where it felt like against a team like Texas that the game was lost. So, all right, I said this. We kind of mentioned this would be funny if it played itself out this way, and then it did. NBA playoffs. Miami opened up a 3-game-to-none lead in Boston, and Boston won Game 4 and make it 3-1. We made the comment, what would be just sheer entertainment value is if Boston came back, forced a Game 7, and lost it.
Right.
Well, holy hell, it happened. Now, I'm not going to go out of my way crying for the Boston Celtics and the Boston fan. They've had it pretty good lately. They've had it real good lately. The Celtics won a championship within the last 15 years, which has been a while, but I mean, it's more than we can say here in Detroit. The Bruins won their Stanley Cup in 2011. The Red Sox won in 2013, and they won another one recently.
Well, the Bruins won a couple of cups too, didn't they?
I think they've been to some, but I think they only won the one of late. But I mean,
Right,
that's the last one they won.
Yeah,
New England won 6 Super Bowls in the Tom Brady era.
What?
Yeah.
They did?
John Hollinger in The Athletic tweeted out, Boston becomes the first city to lose a home Game 7 to an 8 seed in both hockey and basketball in the same season. The Bruins lost to the Florida Panthers, an 8 seed, and the Bruins lost in Boston. And the Celtics at home lost to an 8 seed, Miami. And yes, it's Boston versus Miami, and both go Boston versus, same metro areas. Stoney said. It's pretty incredible that it happened twice. And again, I'm not shedding a tear for Boston fans, but there's a minor amount of amusement in this whole scenario that's played itself out.
See, the guy behind the glass is really proud as a peacock, right?
Yeah, he's
now.
got his heat hat on as Paul sitting in for Kang today.
Yeah, which one means more to you, Paul? The Heat advancing or the Panthers advancing?
Well, as a person that hates both Boston teams, I loved both happening to those teams. Honestly, I'd like to see the Panthers win it more because I've never seen them win the Cup. I've seen the Heat win 3 titles.
Are you as annoyed as I am by that attitude? That you just get, I've never seen the Mr. Florida guy. Florida
You
man
saw
over here.
4 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I've enjoyed them.
But it's been a minute. So, look, it's pretty incredible. I saw something from Ariel Helwani. He doesn't cover a lot or cover as much.
Usually a combat sport kind of guy, but yeah.
But he tweeted out, I thought the Heat were toast after Game 6. Then listen to all the stuff Eric Spoelstra said in the post-game presser and the subsequent media availabilities. And he began to change my mind. His whole vibe was so damn impressive.
Yeah.
Wasn't rattled, broken, nervous, actually seemed cocky. He's a brilliant leader, all-time coach.
I got to agree with him because some of the stuff he said after that heartbreaking loss on Saturday night was, we want to play right now. We want to play game. We wish we could suit up in the Game 7 right now. We're ready to go. That doesn't sit well with us. We want to play. And you're right. He's right, I should say. Eric Spoelstra's done an amazing job.
It's incredible.
With this franchise. I mean, everybody thought it was gifted to him when LeBron brought his talents to South Beach and all that crap. And then LeBron left. And that they blew it up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
All three of those, that triumvirate of tremendous players, they were all gone. And what have they done? They built it back up. They've cobbled it together and turned Jimmy Butler into a superstar, found a way to, get 4 undrafted free agents to go out there and perform every night. And they get the job done. And as an 8th seed, advance to the NBA Finals, beating Boston in the Game 7 at Boston, which is unfreaking believable when you just put it that way. If I had said that to you, Boston's a 2 seed.
Yep.
Miami's an 8 seed.
Yep.
Miami lost the momentum. They were up 3-0. Now Game 7 is actually played in Boston. Who's going to win this game?
Boston.
Yeah. And it didn't happen. Boston was a 7.5-point favorite. Would they lose by 18 or something? 20 points?
It was an incredible win, and it's amazing that Miami is putting a team on the floor that I like. It wasn't that long ago that it was not 3, not 4, not 5, and you're like, I hate this team already, and they haven't played a game.
right.
And now I'm rooting for Miami.
Yeah. They're easy to root for. Jimmy Butler's kind of unassuming. Eric Spoelstra was, people thought he was a lapdog because of LeBron, like handpicked or whatever. Just, he's going to let us do what we're going to do. Well, no, Spoelstra can coach, man. It's great what they've done. The only thing that bothers me about the whole Miami Heat thing, Pat Riley.
Well,
the Riley factor, right?
Whatever.
Well, we're in Detroit. We can.
I know, but I still, I have to say, find myself on Team Heat. And yesterday, Boston would come down the floor and jack what felt like was going to be a momentum-changing three-pointer, and I swear they missed every one.
Well, or they did. They started cutting it down. It got to, 6 points, and then Miami's like, okay, well, you're leaving us open for 3. Knocked it down.
Mm-hmm. And they just hit the big shot.
Started answering every shot that Boston would hit.
They answered when Boston couldn't. But 248-539-9797. Phone calls, feedback. We'll get to more of your Tiger ticket texts as well. Plus, scary moment from the weekend. It brought me back. We'll get to that today at 11:05 here on 97.1 The Ticket.
Well, that weather has changed. It's nice and warm out. Sun's out, and that means summer is here, or at least fast approaching. You don't want to get caught with a flooded basement or a scorching hot house this year. You got problems? Take care of those problems and call the great people over at Birmingham Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Call them today because they dropped a special offer. It's just in time to beat the heat. Birmingham Plumbing is now including a free ultraviolet light air purifier or a high-efficiency air filter when you have both your furnace and air conditioning systems replaced. Now, in addition, they'll include up to a full 5-year parts and labor warranty with annual maintenance. Now, that's key. Then don't be worried about that cost up front because Birmingham has got you covered there, too. They offer financing options for your new furnace or AC system for as low as just $70 a month. So whether it's your air conditioning, a furnace, a pool heater, a boiler, a water filtration, maybe you got a flood in your basement, a clogged drain, a cold pool, problem with a sump pump, whatever the problem is, call Birmingham Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling today at 248-282-3971 or schedule an appointment online at birminghamplumbingco.com. Birmingham Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your Metro Detroit boiler experts.
Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Open lines, 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your open line calls. We got a Tony in Madison Heights. Hi, Tony.
Hi, guys. I've got a Memorial Day special edition of Champ and Chump, okay?
Sure.
I got a chump of course, Boston Celtics. But the champ, I found myself actually rooting for this team, and they win a championship since inception. And that's Notre Dame, NCAA lacrosse champions for 2023. And I had another great lacrosse weekend. Both semifinal games went into overtime, and I still can't believe it's not the number one sport in the world.
So I actually had I was watching some of that Notre Dame Duke national championship game, and I found myself going, all right, who am I rooting against more here? And I'm not a big lacrosse guy, but it was Notre Dame and Duke, and I'm like,
I know.
I could root against. I was like, I'll take get some enjoyment out of whoever loses this game.
Well, I was actually rooting for both coaches. Are really good coaches. I don't particularly care for the schools at times, but both coaches are there, and the coach for Notre Dame sure deserved it. I mean,
what's he been there 35 years, and is this first title?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know how they always, the first time they won since, inception. Yeah.
Hey, thank you for the phone call.
I learned some things Sunday about lacrosse that I did not know.
Okay.
I didn't realize there were different rules for men and women's lacrosse.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that women don't wear helmets in lacrosse.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that that they can't really check each other or have contact in women's lacrosse.
Yep.
I didn't realize that there's a difference in the depth of the netting on the stick in women's lacrosse.
So, I don't understand it, but one of the and I'm not a huge fan, but I've noticed this in women's lacrosse, and I haven't noticed it in men's lacrosse. When the women score goals, they throw their stick to the ground because it needs to get checked.
Yeah.
And in the men's game, they don't do that.
I learned all this stuff on Sunday.
But I'm watching a women's lacrosse, and some girl scores, and she throws her stick. This is the first time I noticed it. I'm like, that's quite a celebration. And then somebody else scores, throws their stick, and they.
Is it a bat flip?
It's intriguing. It feels to me like lacrosse's place in our sports world is slowly growing. And some people say, no, it's growing fast. Okay, fine. Whatever it is. I mean, I'm a casual fan. I'm noticing it more and more, seeing it more and more, paying attention more and more.
I feel like it has a ceiling to it, and it's approaching that ceiling, even though, I'll admit, I think it's grown in popularity. I mean, there's certainly, back when we were in high school, there weren't many schools that had a lacrosse program, and it has somewhat exploded since then, but I don't, ever see it being huge in this country, but it's an interest. It's a sport that I kind of wish I paid more attention to when I was younger. That maybe I would have enjoyed to play, but probably not. There's a lot of running in lacrosse. But the physicality part of it,
goalie.
But no, that's the last position I want to play.
You don't want to stand there and let people whip balls at you?
No, Doug, I don't. No, not even a little. No, I mean, like being a goalie in hockey is bad enough, but you've got all the padding and all the protection that, you're still going to get stung here and there. In lacrosse, you have some padding.
It doesn't look like they're wearing much.
I mean, it looks like if you get drilled with a lacrosse ball in the shoulder, even if it's padded, it's going to hurt like hell.
Well, suffice it to say, I've watched. It seems like every year I watch a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Plus, I think it's the Premier Lacrosse League. I actually got a T-shirt from the team, the Redwoods, because they had a phenomenal logo of this. It was a picture of a bear that looked kind of disinterested. I don't know how else to put it.
A disinterested bear?
Let's see if I can bring this logo up. Redwoods Lacrosse logo.
Disinterested bear.
Yeah, I don't know how else to. Just type in Redwoods Lacrosse logo and tell me that doesn't look like a somewhat disinterested bear. Do you see it?
You're just kind of looking like, hey, how are you?
Am I wrong?
No, he doesn't look menacing.
Nope.
He's just kind of like
It's like
stoic.
a cartoon bear that's kind of like
just like staring at you. Hey,
Yeah.
you gonna eat that? Did you bring enough for the entire class?
Because if not, I might be interested. you know. If you're just going to discard it, I'll eat it.
Yeah, you getting ready
If
to
you're
leave?
going to eat it, feel free. But
I was gonna sit there, but you sat there. You gonna stay there long?
Yeah.
You gonna be here for a while?
Am I right?
Right, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So
Do you have the time? What a great logo.
Maybe go to Bed Bath Beyond.
I don't know if I got time.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I'm gonna rearrange my recipes today. Get them maybe alphabetical.
I get some new contact paper for the line of shelves. Yeah, I mean it's not a fun job, but it's a job that I guess it makes things better. And the wife
Seriously.
wants it. So
Google Redwood lacrosse logo, and it's a cartoon bear that just kind of looks partially interested in what's going on. It's not fierce by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't think it's fierce.
Nope.
I think it's a cool logo.
By the way, they're called the Redwoods, and their logo's a bear. And is the logo red? It isn't even red, is it?
No, it's I've seen green.
Yeah.
With like
I mean, it
dark
just-
brown outlined in yellow.
It just makes me like them more.
Yes.
The Redwoods. But Wolfman 2 on Twitch said the bear looks constipated.
It's the PLL. What is a PLL? Something the
Premier Lacrosse League.
Do you see the other teams in this league? And the phenomenal logos that they have.
I've noticed that they've got some cool names, and I think they're actually going to start assigning team cities because it was just one of these things where they had teams but no city. But
Dude, these logos are awesome. The Archers, it's like just the tip of an arrow, but it's a cool looking arrow tip.
Okay.
They have the Atlas, which is like a skeleton head or skull, I should say, of some kind of animal with big antlers. The Chaos, a team's called the Chaos, and they have a scorpion on the logo.
Sure.
They can get better than that. The Chrome, which is like a knight's helmet, looks really cool. The disinterested bear.
Yep.
And then the Whip Snakes. Yes, a team named like the Whip Snakes.
Let's go Whip Snakes.
It's so cool.
Okay, so we've established that I am a Redwoods guy when it comes to lacrosse, and your favorite team based on logo would be?
The Chaos, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's all great, though. Oh, they got one that's called the Cannons. Oh, that's a cool logo. The Water Dogs. Oh, the Water Dogs. It's like a bulldog chomping on a lacrosse stick, and it looks like a shark's fin between its ears, and it has a little bit of a menacing look on its face.
Love it.
Yeah.
You're in, huh?
I'm all in.
Meanwhile, my team has a disinterested bear as the logo.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you.
It's like the Gorilla Glue commercials.
I mean, it's like the bear is looking at you. My name's Robert.
You ever seen those Gorilla Glue commercials? When something breaks and they're like, I don't know what, glue's just not working. What do we do? And then this gorilla comes and hands them some glue, and they turn and go, ah! They scream because, hey, it's a giant gorilla next to you.
Right.
And then they realize, oh, it's just the Gorilla Glue gorilla. It's okay, thanks. And it's not menacing at all. He's just like, okay, here you go. Same thing as the bear.
The bear is not menacing.
The bear is not menacing.
More
the bear is waiting you out.
That's it. That's the look.
Excuse me, Mr. Bear. It's going to be 45 minutes to an hour wait. All right. Oh, wait.
I'll be over here.
Yeah. You got my cell phone number, right?
Send me a text.
Yeah. We'll be here.
If you care. Feedback on the Tigers and who can give them more. Unnamed texter says, unfortunately, there isn't anyone, guys. And the next one, forget asking for more. Can Cabrera give them literally anything? Well, I mean, that may become an issue at some point. I don't think it's an issue now. He's being used sparingly, but he's in a cast of players. They got enough. If they had 9 guys that were giving him something, and then Cabrera was being inserted on occasion to hope he would give him something, but they've got a number of players that you're trying to decide who to put in the lineup, and it's Cabrera. Yeah, hey man, I hope it doesn't get wildly uncomfortable, but I kind of hope it does because that means the Tigers are in it.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to see him do a little bit more than what he's done to this point, but physically he's just not able to. And it doesn't seem, I don't want to say it doesn't seem to bother him, but he's not letting it outwardly look like it bothers him. I'm sure it tears him up inside that he's not what he was, and he's nowhere close to it. But he's still engaged in the dugout, engaged with his teammates, and that's still cool to see, despite the fact that you're hitting so poorly on the year.
All right, scariest moment of the weekend. We'll get to that at 11:05. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Harsh, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Open lines, 248-539-9797. Let's go to Ned. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Ned.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How you doing, sir?
Real good. Quick champ. Oregon Ducks baseball in the Pac-12 tournament beating Stanford going into the eighth inning there, plus 1280. I took it, won a little bit of money, so thank you, Oregon Ducks. Secondly, I'm just confused. We're talking about, who can make a difference with the Tigers right now. I don't understand why they're not calling up the Malloy kid. I mean, there's a kid that's sitting in AAA who's had 800 at bats, batting 284, 280, 30 ding dongs, 130 RBI total, in those at bats. Why is he still sitting down there when you're deficient at the third base position?
Well, I'll tell you why. You asked the question why, and it sounds like he's got a long way to go defensively. Now, could he be called up and be made into a DH? Yes. But I'm going to guess he's not going to be down there much longer if he keeps hitting. But everything that we have assumed that we've heard A.J. Hinch say about it, and then there was a story in The Athletic saying he's got a long way to go defensively. So that's...
And then finally, my last point would be, talking about the trade stuff, and I totally agree with you, Doug. I think that, being in the division, being kind of in the race, even though we're below 500, I think it makes our pieces, more valuable. And I think you reach out to a team like Baltimore or even Tampa and try to get the Garcia guy from Tampa, or Gunnar Henderson from Baltimore. They're loaded with prospects, and I think if you give them something to help them, especially being in how competitive the AL East is, I think if you give them something like Eduardo Rodriguez and a couple prospects, whatever, dump them off some pitching, I think you could probably pull one of those prospects who are struggling.
Well, let's hope that they stick around long enough and that Rodriguez continues to pitch well, where I think you're eyeing the blockbuster deal for your veterans. Because, I mean, the truth is he's 30 years old, okay? He probably hasn't redefined himself into an elite starting left-handed pitcher in this league. He's probably going to revert to the norm, which is still pretty good, and they should still get something for him. But if he's pitching at elite level, they can command a high price, and they can seriously walk away from a deal, because if they're still in it, they don't have to take a low ball offer just to take a low ball offer.
Well, we saw this tweet on Friday, and I brought it up yesterday from Lynn Henning, who said Tigers mistaken if they don't trade when other teams are lining up. Mm-hmm. Eduardo Rodriguez will get a creditable return even if he's 4+ months from free agency. Alex Lang will bring the biggest haul. Scott Harris has to play for the next 4 years, not the next 4 months. And, I saw that, and I was like, it's kind of depressing if you're a Tigers fan, because it feels like every time the Tigers have something that looks good, that they have to trade it away, because that's just how baseball is, whatever. And my thinking was, they don't have to do anything right now. The trade deadline's at the end of July. They've got a real tough stretch of games coming up for the next 4 weeks. You'll know what kind of team you've got in the next 4 weeks.
One would think.
I would think pretty strongly you should know, because of the teams you're playing against, you can really kind of measure yourself against. And as you keep mentioning the 7 games against the Twins, it's part of that next 4 weeks. So if by July 1st you find that this team is, 8 games below 500 and 12 games out of first place or whatever, or 10 games out of first place, then I'll feel a lot better about having to trade those guys away. But if they're in the thick of it still, if they're still around 500 after that gauntlet of games, then maybe I don't want to move those guys, because you've got control over Alex Lang for several years. There's arbitration years that are in there that, that basically you still have that control. Rodriguez is a different story, but when they interviewed him during the game yesterday, he seems pretty happy here. I'm not saying he'd stay here, but if there's positive movement with this team, maybe he doesn't want to opt out. But you'd have to know that. And that's the one advantage that they have over everybody else, is that they have the ability to talk to him right away.
Right.
They can gauge, hey, Eduardo, do you want to be part of this team or not? Because if not, if you're going to opt out at the end of the season, do me a solid, let me know, and then we can go ahead and move you to a contender right now. But if you don't opt out, if you're not planning to opt out, if you plan on staying here and honoring the contract, then okay, then we can continue to look around and build this team.
What's funny, if they're in this thing, right, I think they could be simultaneously shopping their stars and looking to add.
Yeah.
And not because they'd be looking to add if they don't get the offer they want for Eduardo Rodriguez or for Alex Lang. Like, okay, well, if we're going to keep them, let's try and win the effing division, right? And can we make a shrewd move or two that helps us win now?
Well, the one thing Harris has done with his moves is he's been shrewd with them. He hasn't overshot anything. They've been very calculated moves, and a couple of them have paid off. The one that hasn't yet is Maton.
Mm-hmm.
And when the caller brings up Justin Henry Malloy, and he's got almost 800 career at bats in the minors, and there's some pretty good numbers at batting average at 280, and he's got some power and all that. What it tells me is, if we brought this up last hour about who do you send down, is it Ibanez or is it Maton? You and I both said Maton. It would be Maton, wouldn't it? Because Maton's played a ton of DH this season, because they think that the bat's going to come around, and he should, and he hasn't. So if you bring up Malloy, you're not like saying, Malloy, okay, you're starting at third base from day one.
Right.
It's, hey, you're going to be plugged in as our designated hitter, or maybe spot duty will put you in the field as necessary, but really you're our everyday DH because we're not getting anything from that position.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that at some point they have to call. I mean, the other one's Colt Keith, right? Isn't Colt Keith still tearing it up at Double-A?
Yes, he is. But it's Double-A. I don't want to rush him up. But
I don't either. But
he's gonna. The thing is, if you bring up Malloy, then it creates an open spot, down at AAA. Although Maton would fill that, or Ibanez would fill that. But
those players might have to clear waivers. It may not. I suspect they would.
But sometimes players
the option situation.
Sometimes players break the door down, and Colt Keith is doing that right now.
248-539-9797. All right, I mentioned it was a scary moment of the weekend, and it's happened here. We will get to that coming up shortly. Just a reminder, you can stream the show with the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Download it for your mobile device today. Also streaming through our website, 971theticket.com. And now there's video streaming on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search up 971 The Ticket. And Twitch, where Twitch has a streaming chat. You can participate and watch the show. Twitch.tv, search up 971 The Ticket. It's Carson Anderson here on 97.1. Doug Harsh, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket, open lines. If you're going to send someone packing, it's Jonathan Scope. How can you say anyone else? It's from Eli. How can we say anyone else? Because there's multiple candidates. Honestly, there are guys on this team that are struggling mightily. And
Scope's one of them.
Scope's one of them. Maton's one of them. Ibanez is one of them. And yet Maton, doesn't he still lead him in homers?
Or at least tied for the league with the 5.
Yeah, which isn't a lot.
Yeah, he and Riley Green, I think, have 5, along with Jake Rogers.
Scope's a strong candidate. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
but
Scope, I think, this is where you get to the point midway through the season, whether it's the All-Star break or you wait for the trade deadline, and at some point, I think you're just going to cut bait with him because it is a roster spot that you're not getting anything out of at this point unless he's able to battle out. And there've been some signs. He had a hit here and there, and getting on base a little bit. Finally got his first runs driven in on the season, but all in all, he's just not there, man. I mean, he's hitting 225 with a 583 OPS, but the 225 average is much better than other players on this team. But he's only got 80 at bats. He's not playing much, and he's a defensive guy that you hope can still provide you something. They found a way for him to be in the lineup. They're going to put him at third base. He's played second base. But I don't think he's long for this team. I don't know if he's long for the league because if the Tigers released him, I don't know if he'd get picked up by anybody else unless somebody's just looking for a defensive player to have as their 25th man.
Another one here. Aren't we buying if we're in the race? Maybe I'm missing something because it doesn't make sense to sell at this point. That's from an unnamed texter. Well, it does if you really don't think you're in this thing. I mean, the weird thing is
somebody has to win the Central.
Yeah, somebody is going to win the Central. What if the Tigers are in first place, but Scott Harris knows we're not going to win the World Series, and he gets offered the sun and the moon for Eduardo Rodriguez?
You got to take the sun and the moon
as a first place team.
Yes, you have to.
Has that ever happened before?
Yeah, I think things like that have happened in the past. Absolutely, that's happened. Of course, I can't cite an example right away, but yeah, I think that's definitely happened where you see a team like, what are they doing? Why would they trade this? And I think the Tigers were the benefactor of that. Did that happen when they got Cespedes? Was that kind of a weird trade how that went down?
Look, let's face it. It's probably happened that a first place team has sold.
But the thing is, all you have to do is look at the record within the division, right? Or within the divisions. See how the Tigers faced against the American League East. Not well, right? Yeah. So if you're the division champ of the American League Central, great. Somebody has to win it. And if it's the Tigers, awesome. We get to see the playoffs, but it could be short-lived because you're going to be taking on a wild card from the AL East. So if you don't think you can get it done, you
just have to swallow the bitter pill of reality. And
this goes back to the tweet from Lynn Henning. You have to think about the next 4 years, not the next 4 months. And as much as I desperately want to see the playoff baseball, I understand that part of it. I'm not going to, just make the run for it this year at the expense of passing on somebody that could really help this team out for the future, being the future starting next season.
Another one here. We can't trade Alex Langley. We've been looking for a closer like him for years. And he's under club control, and he's...
They don't have to, but that's a guy that would get a lot.
You would think. You would think. All right, Gator. I mentioned this a couple times. We got sidetracked, but did you watch the Indy 500?
I did not.
Okay. I had it on sort of as video wallpaper in the background while I was doing stuff around the house. And I'd sit down and watch, 20 laps here, 25 laps there. And it was a hell of a finish as Joseph Newgarden final lap pass over Marcus Ericsson, the defending champ, and got the win. And it was exciting. I mean, it was really exciting. But there was a wreck late in that race that sent a tire up over the catch fence.
Scary.
And towards the stands and towards a grandstand area. And the moment the wreck happened, it was a car that hit the wall and then lost control and came down the embankment, and somebody else not quite at full speed, was trying to get around him, and the back, I think it was the back left tire, clipped this damaged car. And that tire, which I believe the tires are now tethered to the car so that they don't fly off. And I think it's because of an incident at MIS back in 1998 that I was at. That tire somehow, it severed the tether and it started to fly. And as soon as it started to fly, I looked at it happened quickly. I'm like, is that going to get over the catch fence?
Yeah.
Because that's what happened at MIS. And it flew over the catch fence in a large grandstand area there. The tire is, and look, the announcers were calling the action on the track. My eyes immediately went to that tire flying into the stands thinking, oh my God, because if that landed in the middle of a grandstand,
it would kill people.
Which, again, is what happened at MIS in 1998.
Think of the size of those tires.
Yep.
Hurtling at,
with
80 miles an hour, or whatever it is, 50 miles an hour
with
coming
parts
at you.
shredded from the what holds it to the car. This is a projectile that would kill people. Thankfully, it cleared the side of the grandstand and landed before it got to the next grandstand. There was a gap in between the two, and it happened to fly over one but land short of the other. Still, I was immediately concerned because there's people walking around down below. Turns out there was a parking lot there and it just hit a car. And when they were showing the replays, they showed from above, from the blimp or a drone or a helicopter, whatever it was. And, later after they're showing replays, that the tire had landed in a parking lot, but you could still see some people walking around down there. That day in 1998 that it happened at MIS, I was broadcasting when I was back at 1050, and we used to do pre-race and post-race shows. I didn't know much about racing. I had to crash course to learn it because it was a big sponsored weekend. We did a lot of advertisement. We did remotes from out at the track. And so I was on the air like 2 hours before the race talking about it, and then 2 hours afterwards. And that I had relocated to the infield out of the press box when that wreck happened. And I don't know if it was turn 3 or turn 4 at MIS. And I remember seeing the stands being cleared. And that one, it turned out 3 people were killed, 3 local people. I think Milan and maybe Jackson. Milan, Jackson, and Lansing, I think, where they were from. But many others injured. And I had a friend that was in that area. And I'm on the air post-race, and that's all that anybody, people will call in. And that's all anybody was talking about. And it was awful. It was tragic. It was hard to be a part of. Like, how does this race go on? There was criticism for the race going on. And there is, it's the scary part about that sport is it's so dangerous. And how a tire happens to clear the catch fence. I don't know if Indy goes back and says, we got to raise the catch fences, but they did at MIS after that. And I do believe it was CART. I think it was CART. I don't know if it was pre-Champ Car or whatever they called it. I believe that's where the idea that they need to tether these tires came in. But
it's amazing when you think that the tires can come off like that to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
The lug nuts that are in there holding that thing together. It's just, then that happens. I mean, these giant riveting machines that, keep them onto the body of the car, but it happens, and it is so scary. And when I saw the highlights of that, I'm like, oh my God. And my first thought was, who died? And fortunately, it did not. It went over the wall and severely damaged the front end of a car. But thank God it was the car and not somebody in the stands, because that would have killed somebody.
Yep. And it's when you go to a race like that, you're not thinking about, hey, I'm in jeopardy. But sometimes even when cars like get up into the catch fencing and parts go flying, I mean, the fans are right there, man. They're right there. And it was a scary, scary moment. Now, the race was exciting as hell. The Coca-Cola, this Sunday was a huge day for racing. Coca-Cola 600 got rained out Sunday, and they ran it yesterday. Good weekend for Penske. You know, it's Penske, Team Penske. I think it's 19 victories at Indy. That's incredible.
Good for them.
Yep. But that day in 1998, I'll never forget it. It's just a empty feeling. Like you realize that what you're talking about, what you're there to cover, is rendered completely meaningless in the grand scheme of things when people died at that track watching that race. 248-539-9797. We'll get to your phone calls and feedback. Carson Anderson, 97.1, The Ticket. feedback coming in here. Carson Anderson, 97 won a ticket, talking about the Indy 500 and that tire that flew into the stands and just cleared a grandstand and landed between two seating areas in a parking lot. A scary, scary moment. It's reminiscent. I mean, look, 1998 is a long time ago, but if you were there, and I was there when that tire flew into the stands, I can't remember who was in the crash. I need to go back and look it up, but it killed 3 people and injured many. I had a buddy that was sitting in that area that said what he saw he could never unsee because it was ugly. Like, and you don't.
Well, how can it not be?
Yeah. And that a tire coming off a car going close to 200 miles an hour is going to fly into the stands with incredible speed and do a lot of damage. And it flew directly over that grandstand. Like, seeing the arc of that flight, I was like, oh God. But thankfully it cleared. And yeah, those killed Lansing, Milan. So it's 2 people from Lansing and 1 from Milan. But God, it was awful. 248-539-9797. We go to Diane. You're on 97 won a ticket. Hi, Diane.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I know. Never forget it. I was there in Milan in '98, and we were sitting in a section where I don't know if it hit the section before us, but I was scanning. We were sitting on the the start-finish straight. The car that had that wreck was coming out of turn 4 and hit the wall, and the wheel assembly, of course, now it's history, flew the fence. And didn't see it hit first. But I was scanning from the finish line back to the turn, and I saw that wheel assembly fly in front of my face. It was several rows ahead of me, but then it hit again to my right in the section I was sitting in, and it was unbelievable. Now, they tether the wheel assemblies to the car now, so they're not supposed to jump the fence.
Right.
So I'm interested in figuring out how this could have happened unless, the car figured out a way, as Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park, chaos will find a way, right?
Yeah.
But my husband's a mechanical engineer. They design these things up one side and down the other. And I guess you can't imagine everything, right?
Yeah. It's some of the feedback we're getting here saying it wasn't that crash at MIS, but it was Ayrton Senna's death in '94 at Imola that started. This is from an unnamed texter that started the thought of wheel tethers. I believe it took a while for them to be adopted, however, and so that may be the case. Senna's was the wheel came off, and the assembly that she mentioned actually pierced his helmet. Yeah, which is obviously awful. Here's another one from an unnamed texter. I drive a tow truck. You'd be amazed at how easily tires come off on impact. I see it on a weekly basis.
I guess it just snaps from the axle and the whole thing comes around, right?
248-539-9797. We go to Mickey. You're on 97 on a ticket. Hi, Mickey.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Okay.
All right.
Good. Doug, I was watching the 500 too, and when that tire flew off that car and it went into the grandstand, I was like, I hope nobody gets killed.
Yep.
So I, too, was at 1998. That was Adrian Fernandez's car who got in the accident. The tire broke off, hit the track, then picked up speed and landed in the grandstand.
Ugh.
So we were sitting to the grandstand. We were in the smaller grandstand to the north of that, and when I saw that happen, I'm just, oh crap. So,
yeah, I mean, you knew it wasn't going to be good.
Yeah.
And I remember the aftermath, hearing that that there was medical personnel called in. I was down in the infield at the time, getting ready for a post-race broadcast, and so I went out just to see if you could, tell what was going on, and just a massive swath of that had been emptied. And
yes, everybody just cleared the grandstand out, and the sheriff showed up on horseback, and the ambulances showed up. So half the group that we went to at the 500 at MIS said, I'm not going back no more after that.
Yeah, well, I can understand it, but
yeah,
scary, scary moment, man. The other thing that happened in racing over the weekend is Chase Elliott intentionally wrecked Denny Hamlin, and it doesn't sound like there's any doubt about it. I mean, I'm not a hardcore racing guy, but Chase Elliott got kind of squeezed up into the wall. And so he said, his comments afterwards was, well, I'd hit the wall and I was done. Like my race was over after I hit the wall, so I took him out. And, that was a hostility going back and forth. And that's also dangerous to the point where I wonder if there's going to be consequences for it. But, yeah, always scary.
And then they had the race that took forever to finish. Was it Charlotte?
Yeah, it was the one there was a near record number of cautions. It was a day late.
It was raining all day yesterday, too.
They had a red flag on that one for rain as well. So, and Max Verstappen, no way, won from the pole at Monaco, which is basically the entire race. It feels like it's qualifying. But 248-539-9797. Okay, Gator. We are 100 days from the NFL season. 100 days from the NFL season, which means we are 100 days to our team playing. And Lions are at OTAs again. I think it's today and tomorrow. And then they have they've got a couple of more OTA dates. And then mandatory minicamp is June 12th through the 14th. 100 days out, man, which is pretty exciting. They're closer to their next game than they are from their last game. Yep. It feels so different. It feels so different this time around, doesn't it?
It does feel different. I mean, there's an air of confidence right now about this team. There's an expectation. It's a good expectation. It's not like, oh, you suck for so long, you better start winning games.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that attitude. It's, oh, no, you're a good team. You should win the division. Go win the division.
Yep.
And then host a playoff game, and we can't wait to host a playoff game. Win that. And good God, are you going to be playing for something special? I mean, that's where you're leading your head goes to, right?
Yep.
The OTA is just a place. You want to hear about the young players coming to this team, the rookies they just drafted, the free agents that have come here, and you start sizing your team up against everybody else, and then you have the news like Friday, what comes out with DeAndre Hopkins being released. Does it make sense for the Lions to go after? And I think most people will say it makes sense. There's a little bit of a risk. Do you want to bring him in here? How much is it going to cost and all that? But it does seem to make a ton of sense to bring him in. The question I ask myself is, how many players like DeAndre Hopkins are going to become available before the regular season starts? And would it happen at a position that maybe you feel more comfortable with going after, like a defensive tackle, for instance, or even a backup quarterback?
I mean, there's absolutely going to be players like Hopkins that become available. They're unpredictable. And the Lions have war-chested. And there's some talk that, the Lions could get involved here, but they don't seem like a problem. Was it Chiefs and Bills? But there's cap issues there.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll see what happens. I like the way they're positioned, that they can get aggressive if they want to go after somebody. And every time we bring this up, I invariably get the ticket text, and they've probably already come over. Unless D-Hop can rush the passer, I'm not interested.
Well,
okay, fine.
Lions can rush the passer.
They have potential to have answered all of those questions. The potential is there that they have answered all those questions.
Yeah, what I think you can make a strong argument now that if you were to add one position to this team right now, because now the new variable is that Jameson Williamson is out for the first 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to add one position to this team that would help this team out the most, where would it be? Is it defensive tackle? Or you could make the argument that it is wide receiver.
You could now.
And it's you've got this gap of having a special receiver there now for the first 6 weeks, which is what we're expecting Jameson Williams to be. Again, there's the word expectation. So if you were to get DeAndre Hopkins, who is a stud wide receiver, for the first 6 weeks of the season, that looks great. After that, it looks even better, because the guy or the player that you would imagine who maybe gets less reps at that point, it's not Hopkins, it's not J-Mo, it's not Amon St. Brown. You're probably looking down the road of, Marv Jones or Josh Reynolds or Khalif Raymond, right?
Yep.
So the thought of having a wide receiver core out there for the second half of the season that has Amon St. Brown in the slot, Jameson Williams, and DeAndre Hopkins on the outside looks great, with Laporta at tight end. You want to go 4 receiver set, then you bring in Marv Jones or whatever you want to do, Or Jahmyr Gibbs, you want to line him up in a slot as well. There's a lot that they could do if they had another stud, and he is a stud, wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins.
248-539-9797. We got updated odds on who will be the next Piston coach. Although, you found a flaw in him?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get to that coming up today at 11:50. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Our Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Open lines, 248-539-9797. Steve is next here on 97.1. What's up, Steve?
Hey, I got a question, man. You talk about all this cap space available. What about their top three draft choices they haven't even paid yet?
What about them?
Well, how much money does that take? You have to take away that money from what you have available.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, it's about $6 million projected to go to their top three picks. 6.5.
Okay, so then realistically, what are they going to have, about $14 million available?
Hold on, give me a second.
No, I think it's like 17 after you would sign those. I thought
it'd be
the number was
about 17. It'd be
23.8
about
or something.
17 million. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to spend what, 8 or 9 of that on a wide receiver, then you'll have maybe 7 left over. What if your quarterback blows his arm or knee out in week 1 or 2?
Oh, then they're done.
Then what?
Well,
then they're done.
Then they're done,
regardless of cap space.
So are most teams that have an issue if their quarterback goes out.
Yeah.
I mean, if Josh Allen blows his arm out, is Buffalo going to be a Super Bowl contender?
Well, I get that, but everybody keeps saying they have all this cap space.
Because they do.
haven't signed the 3 draft picks.
It doesn't. The draft picks doesn't cost you that much
It
because they're
doesn't.
draft picks.
And all the teams have to sign. Many of the teams have to sign draft picks.
Okay, then let's just look at it realistically. They have about $17 million then left over, and then what do they spend it on? Is the real question. That's my whole point, though. I mean, nobody mentions the draft picks.
Because the draft picks doesn't matter. Everybody's got to deal with that.
Everybody has to sign their draft picks, and they cut, and everybody gets their cap space cut into. But the Lions are starting with more than most, so at the end of it, they'll have more than most.
Okay, so they get Hopkins, and then they have some left over. Isn't there a decent linebacker out there available to sign, or a decent defensive tackle?
There might be, and I don't think any of them will cost as much as DeAndre Hopkins if they get Hopkins. Look, the only path to success isn't through Hopkins. Let's start with that. And I'm not sure that they're realistically in it for Hopkins. But they might go a different direction.
Well, you know what else there is, Doug?
Yannick Ngakoue is still out there, right?
Yeah. If you're worried about cap space, don't, because you can find cap space anywhere.
You can.
It's found out of thin air. Teams do it. If
you can only find so much.
Well, but I think they already have so much. They already have enough cap space.
They have.
They don't have to worry about cap space for the Lions. I understand you're worried about the sign the rookies. Don't. Everybody has to sign the rookies, so everybody's basically in the same pool. Now the Lions
Some
have
signed.
Yeah, and now to be fair, the Lions' first 3 picks are high picks.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to get a decent share of money there, but it just puts a little dent into what their cap space is. And if you're going to sign Hopkins, and I heard this earlier today too, on the morning show, somebody called up and they were saying, well, look, the Lions have to sign some of their own players in the next couple of years. Look at the offensive linemen. You got to sign them to long-term deals. And, what are you going to do with Jared Goff? Well, that's 2 years down the road. I'll worry about that. I'm not worried about it now because Hopkins doesn't factor into that. You're not signing DeAndre Hopkins to a 5-year deal. You're not. You'd sign him to, what have we learned anyway with Brad Holmes when it comes to signing free agents? He's like a 1-year guy all over the place. In rare occasions, he gives a 3-year contract. Well, contracts made to be broken in the NFL. It's about the signing bonus, how much you give him. Basically, you're looking at a 2-year deal. And if he wants more than that, then wave goodbye, move on to the next.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Was that caller unnecessarily hostile with a relatively benign topic?
I think it was more. I think he maybe if he really it sounded like he just doesn't like DeAndre Hopkins and thinks that there's other positions that would make more sense. And like he said, like a defensive tackle or a linebacker,
which is fine.
But got to that a little bit late. I don't think he likes DeAndre Hopkins. And he's probably a guy that thinks they need to fix the defense. They don't need to keep adding to the offense.
It's okay to not want DeAndre Hopkins.
It's fine to not. Yeah, absolutely it is. And that's why I say, is there another player out there like a DeAndre Hopkins? And it's hard to say that because DeAndre Hopkins is so good.
Yep.
But if somebody comes available, if Ed Oliver becomes available, do you consider doing it? Or Quinnen Williams, these are obvious choices that you would say, yes, I'll take him. Daron Payne was that guy. And then he signed a long-term deal with Washington, whomever you are. So they still have time to figure some things out. I do like I think they have upgraded the linebacker position by bringing in Jack Campbell.
I would agree. 248-539-9797. Let's go to David next to our 97.1. Hi, David.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
It would be a waste bringing DeAndre Hopkins in here. You got enough depth at the receiver position. You just brought Marvin Jones back. Come on. You need help at defensive end position. Remember, I saw when Aiden Hutchinson went out of the game. He was nicked up. Couldn't get to the quarterback. No pass rush. You need depth on that defensive line. This is why I always say should have took Luka Van Ness and Micah Smith in the draft. You would have been tight on defense. I would have given him an 8th grade. And now you hear these rumors that they even Brad talking about.
Well, look, David, what if they get DeAndre Hopkins and a defensive end? What if they do both?
Say that again?
What if they do both? Get DeAndre Hopkins and a defensive end?
No, don't bring DeAndre Hopkins in. It's going too much money. Just concentrate on getting the defense.
What if it's for a year? What if it's just for this upcoming year?
What if you can afford them both?
You get a defensive end. You get Hopkins for a year. Is there any harm?
Okay, if you want to sign him to a 1-year deal, that's cool.
I mean, if he'd accept it. Whoa. If you can fit him, nice job.
Did he just say that?
He just did.
All right.
Look, I don't suspect DeAndre Hopkins is going to end up here. I mean, it's a hot button topic, and I have to go back and look at this report I saw over the weekend, but it feels as though he's likely to end up elsewhere.
Well, he's got the quarterbacks he would prefer to play with.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that's where he's going to go. Money can talk. I think he'll go where the best deal is, I would imagine.
248-539-9797. All right, you got those updated Piston coaching odds?
I do.
And who put them out?
This was from sportsbetting.ag.
Okay.
So they came out with the odds for the next Phoenix Suns head coach, Detroit Pistons, and Toronto Raptors next head coach.
Okay. And the favorite is?
For the Pistons?
Yeah.
Kevin Ollie
at
plus 350, followed by Charles Lee at plus 400 and Jerron Collins at plus 600.
Mm-hmm.
But the name who was fourth has me scratching my head. At plus 700, it says Ime Udoka.
Who's now in Houston.
Right. So I'm not sure why he's still listed there, but he is.
Okay.
Then you have a triumvirate of players, I should say a trio, with Brian Keefe, Josh Longstaff, and Mike Budenholzer all at plus 900, followed by Kenny Atkinson at plus 1,000, Jay Wright plus 1,200, Jerry Stackhouse, Scott Brooks are at plus 1,400, Sam Cassell plus 1,600. And then it gets a little ridiculous after that.
Longstaff is a assistant in Chicago, and Keefe is an assistant with the Nets. This is really underwhelming. I know the morning show was talking about them making another run at Monty Williams. It really does feel like they're. I'm glad they're taking their time because there has been nobody where I've been like, got to be the guy. Well, I mean, Monty Williams is the guy, but then when he said no, go back and try again, I guess.
Yeah, Monty Williams is not listed on the odds for the Suns. They have, it seems like a clear-cut favorite. Kevin Young is minus 1,000 that he would be the next head coach there. For the Raptors, the top three names are Steve Nash, J.J. Redick, Mike Budenholzer, and then Sergio Sacriolo, and then Monty Williams is at plus 700 for the Raptors job. Sounds like Vegas thinks that Monty Williams is going to take the year off.
The most amazing thing, though, is that Philadelphia gets Nick Nurse. And the fact that they have gone from a doc
to a nurse?
To a nurse.
Doc Rivers to Nick Nurse.
I mean, that can't be real, right? They went from a doc to a nurse.
It just happened. That just happened.
That just happened. That really just happened. 248-539-9797.
I'm still a little confused why Budenholzer is not higher in other teams' lists.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too.
I mean, because you don't win an NBA championship with one player. It doesn't happen anymore.
No.
You know, and as great as Giannis is, and he is great, I mean, you needed more than Giannis to win.